Cooper, a fun-loving man in his 30s, has been feeling suffocated after the recent passing of his father and his strained relationship with his mother. To escape his emotions, he decides to embark on a spontaneous trip. Early one morning, he quietly packs his bags and sneaks out of the house without telling his mother. During his travels, Cooper has a whirlwind romance with a girl named Sonia. They hit it off instantly, but his carefree lifestyle quickly maxes out his credit card. Now stranded and out of options, he contemplates calling his mother for help, but ultimately hesitates and puts the phone down. Desperate, he turns to Sonia for assistance. Understanding his situation, Sonia kindly offers him temporary shelter. Cooper searches for a quick way to earn some cash. That's when he stumbles upon an ad recruiting game testers. The pay is high, and the testing period is short. Just what he needs. When he asks Sonia about the company, she immediately recognizes it and reveals that its founder is a renowned game developer known for creating top-ranking horror games. Rumor has it that the company is now working on a highly secretive project. Jokingly, Sonia suggests that if Cooper can sneak some inside photos, they might be worth more than the actual test payment. That afternoon, Cooper arrives at the company's headquarters, a massive castle-like building that exudes power and innovation. Inside, he notices all the employees are working while wearing specialized glasses, which only heightens his curiosity. A receptionist, Katie, leads Cooper to a private room and explains that the game he will be testing is an experimental project. She assures him that it's perfectly safe but requires him to sign a confidentiality and liability waiver. Cooper doesn't think twice about agreeing. However, as he reviews the contract, he notices that a signature page is missing. The Katie asks him to wait while she fetches the correct form. As soon as she leaves, he quickly grabs his phone, switches it back on, and snaps photos of the testing equipment, sending them to Sonia. If her suspicions are correct, this photo could be worth far more than his tester's fee. By the time the Katie returns, Cooper has already composed himself. He casually finishes signing the contract, and the test officially begins. The Katie explains the technology, an interactive augmented reality system that doesn't require external headsets or screens. Instead, a tiny neural sensor is implanted at the base of his neck and connected to a computer, allowing him to experience a virtual world as if it were real. And after some quick software adjustments, the system is ready. Just as activation begins, Cooper's phone unexpectedly rings. It's his mother. The Katie seems surprised but quickly shuts off the phone. Once the system is fully online, she removes the neural connector and places a few random objects on the table in front of Cooper. Then, something surreal happens. In his eyes, the objects begin transforming into 3D models. A pixelated mole suddenly pops its head out, and as the Katie makes adjustments, the virtual creature becomes increasingly lifelike. Although Cooper was surprised, he found the simple whack-a-mole game to be a piece of cake. However, what he didn't realize was that, to anyone else watching, there was no mole on the table. Everything was just a projection from his own consciousness. After he finished the game, the Katie recorded his experience data and informed him that this was merely a demonstration. The full version was much more intense, and if he was willing to continue, the company would pay him even more. Without hesitation, Cooper agreed. He was then introduced to Saito, the game's developer and the company's CEO. Since this was a new project still in testing, Saito personally explained the details to him. He told Cooper that people who enjoy horror games or movies often experience fear at first, but it is followed by an intense adrenaline rush. The game's AI system would use this principle to scare him. It would project Cooper's worst fears into reality. The catch? Only he would be able to see them. As the software installation was completed, the Katie explained that this was the most advanced AI system available. It would monitor Cooper's brain activity in real time, continuously learning and adapting to identify his deepest subconscious fears. Then, when Saito activated the system, a countdown began. Once it reached 0, the software was successfully initialized. Cooper stretched his body but didn't feel any noticeable changes. Little did he know, the real game had just begun. To enhance the experience, the Katie led Cooper to a luxurious mansion within the estate. She explained that this house was a perfect one. Inside, Cooper asked what he needed to do. The Katie told him he didn't have to do anything, just spend the night there. The longer he lasted, the higher his reward. She handed him an earpiece so they could stay in contact. If he ever felt too scared, all he had to do was say, "Stop the game," and they would immediately shut down the system. For safety, the entire house was under surveillance. With that, the Katie left, and Cooper began wandering around the house, killing time. Although he was the only one inside, he could chat with the Katie anytime he grabbed a book to pass the time. Just then, a spider crawled into view. As Cooper's heart rate spiked, the Katie immediately detected the change and asked what had happened. Cooper told her he saw a spider. However, through the surveillance cameras, she saw nothing. Cooper moved in for a closer look, but the spider suddenly lunged at him, making him flinch in shock. The Katie asked if he was scared, but he quickly brushed it off, saying he just didn't like spiders. He then stomped on it, only to find that when he lifted his foot, there was nothing there. If this was just a projection, it was disturbingly realistic. He told himself it was no big deal, but anxiety had already started creeping into his mind. Just as he tried to steady his nerves, the lights flickered. Turning to check, he was horrified to see that a painting on the wall, which depicted this very mansion, now showed a lit-up window in the exact room he was standing in. Moments ago, the painting had been completely dark. Cooper described the eerie sight to the Katie, but as he turned his head back, a shadowy figure had suddenly appeared in the room with him. Cooper tried to maintain a nonchalant expression, but the immersive experience had already left him stammering. Fortunately, as quickly as it had changed, the painting returned to normal. He let out a breath of relief, only for his moment of calm to be shattered by the sudden sound of frantic footsteps above him, as if someone was about to rush down at any moment. Trying to reassure himself, he cautiously approached the staircase to check. After waiting for a while and seeing nothing, he turned to leave, only for a mysterious figure dressed in black to suddenly appear before him. Cooper was so terrified, but as the figure remained motionless, he realized it had to be another hallucination. However, upon closer inspection, the figure wasn't just anyone. It was the bully who tormented him in school. But in the surveillance footage, he looked like a madman flailing at thin air. Since there was no physical sensation to his blows, Cooper decided to push through the game and claim the highest possible reward. As he made his way to the kitchen, he vented to the Katie about all the torment he had endured from the bully. The Katie took the opportunity to explain that when people are scared, they tend to talk more. In other words, she was implying that Cooper was still frightened. He focused on rummaging through the cabinets for something to eat, but just as he turned his head, the shadow of the black-clad figure suddenly moved. Before Cooper could react, a giant spider lunged out at him. He let out a terrified scream. The Katie asked what he saw this time. Realizing he had embarrassed himself, Cooper quickly explained that it was just a giant spider. But before he could say much more, his earpiece suddenly started cutting out. No matter how many times he called out, the Katie's voice was gone. With no response from the other end, Cooper started to wonder how he could exit the game. But before he could figure it out, a series of frantic knocks suddenly echoed through the mansion. His fear spiked. But what if it was the Katie checking on him? After an intense internal struggle, he took a deep breath and opened the door. It was all just another projection from his subconscious. At that moment, Katie's voice suddenly came through. Cooper, still in shock, shouted that it felt too real. Why was this happening? He furiously demanded an explanation, recounting everything he had just experienced. But Katie calmly responded that from their side, Cooper had suddenly gone silent. The surveillance only showed him talking to himself and then violently thrashing around. As for the realistic sensations he described, Katie insisted it was impossible, something never seen before. Following her instructions, Cooper arrived at the door of the upstairs room. But just as he was about to step inside, fear gripped him again. Was any of this real? It didn't matter. He had to end this and leave. Forcing himself to push past the fear, he swung the door open. There was no nightmare waiting for him inside, just an ordinary room. Relieved but wary, he asked the Katie where the access point was. "There is no access point," she said flatly. "I just wanted to see how much you could endure." Cooper felt like he was losing his mind. Why were they doing this? Then a realization struck him. If he could remove the implant on his neck, he might be able to forcefully disconnect from the game. Desperate, he smashed a mirror, picking up a jagged shard. But just as he raised it to cut the chip out, Katie and a team of security personnel burst into the room, stopping him. Everything had been an illusion. From the very start, there had never been any conversation. Katie and the others had merely been observing him through the surveillance feeds. Noticing something was wrong, they rushed over just in time. Katie attempted to shut down the software using the computer, but no matter how many times she tried, it wouldn't close. Although Cooper had momentarily calmed down, Katie delivered an even more terrifying truth. The data had already overwritten his entire brain and taken control of large portions of it. At this point, there was nothing he could do to stop it. Hearing this, Cooper mumbled incoherently, his words filled with fragmented and confused memories. Seeing his increasingly abnormal state, Saito suddenly muttered, "I'm sorry," before ordering his men to lock Cooper up with the other failed test subjects. Regardless, he compensated Cooper with a substantial payment. After regaining some composure, Cooper left the facility. He boarded a flight back home, and as he stepped in front of his familiar house, he let out a self-deprecating chuckle. But as soon as he walked inside, he was met with the sound of his mother sobbing uncontrollably. Although their relationship had been strained, he still approached her asking what had happened. His mother, in distress, said that she hadn't been able to reach her son and was about to call him. At that moment, something clicked in Cooper's mind. Watching his mother dial his number, he suddenly screamed in terror. The scene shifted once again, this time back to the very beginning. The clock still read 5:38 p.m. But the moment his mother's phone rang, Cooper instantly lost all signs of life. Katie, looking at the incoming call, told Saito that she had turned off his phone, yet somehow he had still remembered it. And in that exact moment, as the phone rang, the software had fully activated. All the neural synapses in Cooper's brain had fired simultaneously, only to shut down in an instant. According to the uploaded data, the entire process lasted no more than 0.04 seconds. In the end, Cooper barely managed to utter a few cries for his mother before going completely silent. With Cooper's death, the film effectively comes to an end, a truly chilling conclusion. But the lingering question remains: could the human brain really go through all of that in such a short span of time? Or was everything that happened just another illusion?